want to talk about the Cleveland Browns. Before I do, make sure you share the video, like the video, and subscribe to the channel. When you do those 3 things, it helps the channel grow. It only takes about 1/3 of a second to like the video and subscribe to the channel and share the video on your social media pages with your friends. So I want to talk about the Cleveland Browns. What is the biggest lesson that we learned from the Cleveland Browns, right? And the biggest lesson that we can take away is John Dorsey in the offseason didn't really put that much thought when it came to assembling this roster for this season. Here's what John Dorsey did. He said, oh, Odell Beckham's available for a trade? Let's get him. Oh, Kareem Hunt's available in free agency? Let's get him. Oh, Olivier Verno's available? Let's get him. Let's get this guy. Let's get this guy. Let's get this guy, right? All good players, don't get me wrong, right? But here's what we can learn from Cleveland. Culture matters, right? You see, the New England Patriots can bring in a guy like Antonio Brown and a guy like a Josh Gordon. You want to know why? Because they have an established culture in place. Their culture is so established in that locker room that you go ahead and bring in a guy like Antonio Brown and a guy like Josh Gordon, and you really won't have a lot of problems because of the culture, right? The Cleveland Browns, what they failed to do is establish their culture. And that's a very big key when you have a young head coach and the majority young team is establishing a culture in the locker room. The Indianapolis Colts, the first year, last season, when they first hired Frank Reich, they didn't make a lot of splash free agent signings. They went to the draft, drafted players who they needed, and they didn't really have a lot of big notable free agent signings, right? And then they went to the playoffs. Then, what did they do in free agency? In the following off season, they brought in guys like Justin Houston. They brought in a couple of guys in free agency, right? They did that because first, they had to establish their culture. Then, once the Indianapolis Colts had established their culture, then they went in and brought in more guys in free agency to try to fit in with that culture, right? But what the Cleveland Browns did, they never tried to establish their culture. They just went ahead and they brought in guys who didn't fit the build of what they wanted to do in the locker room. Although Antonio Brown and Josh Gordon didn't work out for the New England Patriots, they were able to have some success because they were able to bring those guys in, the Patriots were, because they had an established culture. And bringing in a guy like Antonio Brown or Josh Gordon wouldn't affect the locker room. And if they became a locker room distraction, they could just get rid of them. You can do that when you have a strong culture. And Cleveland never built a strong culture. And then on top of that, you have a young, inexperienced head coach in Freddie Kitchens. Freddie Kitchens is a young head coach. The hardest task a young head coach can have is not being a head coach of a bad football team, but being a head coach of a football team with several big personalities. You got Baker Mayfield, you got Odell Beckham, you got Jarvis Landry. Those are 3 big personalities all in one. You got Odell Beckham, who wants the ball. You got Jarvis Landry, who is outspoken. You got Baker Mayfield, who is really outspoken. So you have a lot of big personalities. And Freddie Kitchens wasn't quite ready yet to be the head coach of this Cleveland Browns team. As of right now, it looks like he doesn't look like the right coach. What the Cleveland Browns should have did, if John Dorsey was going to do what he did in the offseason and bring in all this talent, he should have gotten an experienced coach, a veteran coach that knows how to manage personalities, like a Mike McCarthy or Bruce Arians. Bruce Arians really wanted that Cleveland Browns job. Mike McCarthy will pretty much have been interested in being a head coach of the Cleveland Browns as well. This kind of team with all these personalities will require an experienced head coach. And it's already a struggle for Freddie Kitchens trying to manage the team and things like that. But now you got to manage the locker room and all these personalities as well. So here's the biggest lesson we learned from the Cleveland Browns. You can't just go ahead when you have a new head coach and a new regime. You can't go ahead and get all these good players. Sometimes it's not all about getting the best players. Sometimes it's about finding guys who fit what you want in your locker room. It's about finding guys that fit what you want to build and the culture that you want in your locker room. In the Cleveland Browns, they got guys just because they were the best players, and they weren't looking for players who were the best fit. They just went ahead and got the best players available instead of thinking about what kind of players they needed that would best fit the culture that they wanted to establish in a locker room. And since they never established their locker room, they never have an identity of what that locker room is. That's why the Cleveland Browns have the problems they have right now. And that's the biggest lesson we can learn from the Cleveland Browns. So let me know what you guys think about this down in the comment section down below. Make sure you like the video and subscribe to the channel for more NFL videos and college football videos. And thanks for watching.